Hey there, it's Patty. Welcome back to my design notebook. If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm happy to have you. I like to make videos sharing my plotting on my sewing. It's usually sewing projects, but today we're actually talking about knitting. So if you are new or if you're not and you haven't already, please subscribe. Come and follow me on Instagram, which is where I hang out most of the time. Or if you want, you can follow me on Facebook if you're more of a Facebook person. And let's get into this. So today I'm talking about the Ursina sweater, which is a huge favorite in the Instagram world, for a really good reason. It's a great sweater. It's cropped. It's got this cool triangle detail, which I think is super awesome looking. Uh, so it's like oversized, but still gives you some shape, which I love. It's pretty easy to knit. I'm not the most expert knitter in the world, and I managed to make a few of them, and I love it. So I'm going to show you some examples. I'm going to share some of the problems that I had, and some really specific stuff, especially if you're close to my size, and things to look for. So let's take a look first at how they look on me. So if you have been here before, you know I'm a big fan of the Sew Liberated patterns. One of the reasons the Ursina sweater I think is so great is it goes well with the kind of higher waistline dresses that I love to wear. So this is here my blue merino one, and I'm wearing it over a metamorphic dress. This is worn with a Sotina Given skirt. This is over a Hinterlands dress. Both the Hinterland and metamorphic are So Liberated. I'm wearing this one with a pair of Morden Mist pants. These are actually pants. And then this is a ready to wear dress that I'm wearing it over. So it works really well with kind of the like cool, laid back Holly Hobby style that I like. It's oversized, but it, because of that detail, gives you some shape. And the other thing that's great about this sweater is the arms are, they look huge in this picture, but my body is like here. It's just that it's really an oversized sweater on me. And but the arms are pretty fitted, which I love, although they're also really long. So yeah, so here's all the looks on me. This is how it looks. I'm 5'10". My measurements are about 49 in the bust, about 54 in the hips. My natural waist is probably about 44, and my most narrow point, which is here, is more like 40. And I only wear Third Love bras, and I wear I think a E cup, which is like a double D maybe. So I'm pretty busty. And I think the sweater works really well for this if you've got a big rack like me, it works. Okay, so the designer is Jacqueline Cieslak. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. And this is her lovely face lovely masked face right here. And she knit a size 8 and I knit a size 7. And so pretty close in sizes. I just want to show you real quick, if you're unfamiliar with this designer, she's awesome. She has some great patterns, both knitting and sewing. But for her knitting patterns, she does these sample roundups. So she shares all of her test knitters. She shares them and details about their size, if they made any modifications. And I really love being able to see the different sizes on the different body types as well as the different modifications that people made. So let's go look at, I ended up knitting a size, I knitted a size 7. So here's Jess in a size 7. Hers is a little bit longer than mine. Hers looks longer than mine. Hers looks more like mine. But more fitted, I think. Yeah, she's got less ease at the bust than I do. And then here we're going into size 8. And yeah, there we go. So let's talk about that ease a little bit. So here we're in the pattern. Let me erase all my notes. So when I was deciding on the sizing, I initially did it wrong. I cast on a size 8. I don't know why I cast on so much actually, because I really like the look of this one here on the right, which has 3 inches of ease. This one here on the left has 6.25 inches of ease. Honestly, I think I was just being cautious because I didn't want it to be tight. I wanted to have a nice sort of relaxed look and a cropped but oversized look. And I actually love this look. I don't know what I was thinking, but apparently I was thinking that with my 49-inch bust, I needed almost 8 inches of ease, even though even this one is a little bit too big looking for my taste, and that's only 625. So I was just on safari. Let's take a look at that first version. I have an Instagram story. Okay, I've finished my Ursina bodice. This is the Ursina sweater, and I'm going to be starting over. This is just way too big. I wanted it to be oversized, but this is very oversized. Also, the bust points are really not in the right place, and I need to take it's way too long. Not only is it too wide, but I want it to be shorter. So I need to take about 4 inches off of here. So it's kind of a bummer because this is a lot of knitting, but I don't want to do a lot of knitting to make something that I won't wear. Also, it took me a while to get the hang of the stitches, so it'll be good to start over because the quality will be better at the top. If you've made the Ursina and have any recommendations, I need to look at the pattern. If I make a smaller size, everything will be better. But if you have any recommendations on taking the width out here. Okay, here's today's up. Okay, so I'm going to talk real quick about that full bust adjustment. You can see that she did one too. I can see it a little bit here. I think this has a full bust adjustment. Yeah. And you could see how bad it looked on mine. That is in part because I'd never done German short rows before. But I do want to point out, let's just go to the schematic. So if you're unfamiliar with a full bust adjustment, when I first started knitting and sewing, I thought full bust adjustments were more about adding more width, because big boobs. They're actually about adding more length. And if you think about it, it's because if you have larger, I can't remember what she drafted for, probably C or D cup, but if you're larger than that, from the side, like a B cup is maybe like this, so then a D cup is like this, well, if you can draw. And so you need more fabric to go over that, so you need more length. So a full bust adjustment is just adding more length. And the way that you do that with the darts and the knitting is you knit these where you're adding in some stitches, but it creates the bust and then it creates extra length. It's hard for me to really explain because it's a 3D thing. But one thing I really didn't like about the bust darts that she had is where you start them was not where my bust apex is. So she if you read through this, just keep this in mind because I'm not going to go too into this because I ended up not doing a full bust adjustment. But she has you start with 20. Yeah, I'm just looking real quick here. Yeah, so she has you start with this 20, so you put 20 here. I think that you could go wider and it would make the bust apex, instead of being here, be over here, which is more what I needed because my boobs are farther apart than how it was drafted. All that being said, if you are like me and you like the cropped look, I wouldn't do the bust adjustment. I just really wouldn't. I have a very large bust. I would not do it. I can't think of anybody who would need to do it if this is the silhouette you're looking for. If you're looking for a longer sweater that's more like a classic sweater, like how some of these pattern testing people did, they just wanted a longer sweater, by all means, do the full bust adjustment, because then you'll get an even hemline. I mean, that's the whole point of a full bust adjustment. It makes it so the front of the sweater stays straight. I don't mind that mine dips up a little bit. I'm used to that. So anyway, let's move on from the bust adjustment. When I was picking out my sizing, I had to A, just work with the yarn that I could work with, and B, figure out what to do because of how I knit. You know, all of us are used to this. I know that I knit a little bit on the tight side. So the gauge for this, sorry, I'm flipping around so much. I'm looking for, here's the gauge. So the gauge, so I went and picked out my yarn. Let's go over to Ravelry. And the gauge calls for either 20 inches by 32 being a 4-inch swatch on US 4, or 16 by 26 on US 7 being a 4-inch swatch. So worsted or sport. I ended up finding a yarn that on Ravelry in the standardized was DK. So right between the worsted and sport, right? Like supposedly. I think, yeah. So the yarn I used is Must Be Merino from Yarn Bee, which is a Hobby Lobby brand. Please don't come at me because of Hobby Lobby. I'm hard enough on myself that I buy yarn there. But man, that Yarn Bee brand is good. So this is 22 stitches on a US 7, should be 4 inches. So a little bit, you know, bigger than this. Not as, I don't know if bigger is the right word, but different than this. So I do knit a little bit tight, and I believe I ended up using a size 7 because when I did the 20 stitch swatch, when I cast on 20 stitches, it ended up being 4 inches. So I knit a little bit tighter than the yarn thought I would knit, which is really common for me. I'm a pretty tight knitter. I've been practicing a little trying to knit. I knit English style, and I've been practicing continental, which I'm realizing I knit way looser when I knit continental than I do English style. So that's interesting. So I went with the sport instructions, not the worsted. And I think that if you look at I'm trying to explain this in like a nice, easy to wrap up way, but I'm not. So my first version, I went with a size 8. My second, size 7, which is supposed to be about 4.5 inches of ease, similar to this, because I have a 49-inch bust. Now, if we look at this picture with her 3 inches of ease, and then we go look at my picture, I think I have significantly more than 3 inches of ease, especially on the white one, which is much bigger. But like you can really see here, like my body's here, and this is the sweater, guys. So there's a little bit of ease over here too. So there's a lot of ease in this sweater. But the thing is, the white version, I had to do a lot to it because I dyed it. I have a whole separate video about that, but it started out being this color yarn. I dyed it gray, and then I didn't like it, so then I removed the color and bleached it too. So this is after a couple times being washed in the washer, being hung, being steamed, and it just really grew. Plus this is a cotton linen blend yarn, and cotton and linen in particular will grow when it gets wet, so I think I just made it bigger during the blocking process. But even this one, which is an acrylic and merino blend, so shouldn't have been quite as big after the blocking process, it's pretty big. Although I have to say, I noticed I blocked this one using a handheld steamer while it was hanging. Maybe not the best idea because the arms in particular got like 4 extra inches. So I don't know. My gauge is a little bit funky. I think everybody's gauge probably ends up being a little bit funky. This is a forgiving sweater, but the reason I'm kind of blah 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 on this is because of the length. I was so unhappy with the length of the first one, and I'm going to show you in the construction notes why this is really important. I have a picture. Yeah. So I want to show you this picture because this is what it looks like after you knit. You cast on the neck at the neck, and then you knit, and you're kind of starting the sleeves, and then you get to where the sleeves are done, and you put them on scrap yarn. That's the point I'm at right here. I'm going to show you in a diagram in a second. So that's what it looks like, right? It's a little bit hiked up because it's on, needle. Well, it's on one of those plastic flexible cords right now. But when we switch over, and let's go to the diagram at the end. Here we are. Is this it? No, it's not. Here, no. Yeah, here. So this diagram's a little bit misleading if you're making the cropped. So that picture we were just looking at, I had gotten to here, and then this is what we were looking at, right? So if you're making the cropped version, you knit this far, you put the arms on your scrap yarn, and then you immediately start the triangle. This whole space here, that doesn't exist if you're doing the cropped version. That's if you're doing the full length version. So this measurement here, D, is for size 7D. Oh, that's the full length one. The length is 8.75, which 8 to 9 inches for cropped is pretty good for me. I actually know that, so it's good. The finished versions are a little bit big, but I think that's because of the blocking. So if you're knitting a little bit big, if your swatch is a little bit big, or you are extremely short-waisted, you have a smaller bust, but you're bigger, so you want to use a bigger size, this is really important. When you get to this point, you immediately are going to start working the triangle. And so there's no place to decrease the length. Because if you do it up here, then you're making your arms a little bit smaller, which you could do if you know what you're doing. But it would be hard because also the increases to make the body size are all there. It just would be kind of difficult. So the way the triangle is formed is the center detail is 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. So once you get here and you start adding on stitches, you add 1 on either side, then you knit a row straight, then you add another and you knit a row straight, so you keep adding 2 on the front, 2 on the back, and it makes that angle. So the 2 ways you can make it shorter are either you could add 2, which would be very easy with the pattern, and then knit a row straight, then add 2, and then knit a row straight. But that would make the angle more like that, right? It would be like less angle. But if we look at mine, not the, if we look at mine, not the diagram, it probably would look still really cute. You'd still get that, detail, but it just, would be just less angled. I think that'd still be really cute. Alternately, you could not knit the straight rows. The problem with that is, unless you're really, really good at pattern shifts, by the time you get to this part of the pattern, you knit, when you're doing the increase rows, you knit a certain way. And then when you're doing the straight rows, you knit a different way. It's like you're purling versus knitting. It's just the way the stitch gets formed. And it would be really confusing to be increasing on every row. Because you get into the pattern, the rhythm of it. So if I really wanted to shorten this sweater, I would 100% do some version of just making this angle a little bit more flat. So that's my thing on that. My next thing is the sleeves. So the sleeves are really long, and it's not just blocking. And I am 5'10" with probably longer arms proportionally than a lot of people have, just because I'm I'm tall. Everything on me is long. So I found the sleeves really long. You can see in the white ones are particularly long, but the blue ones are still pretty long. I shortened the blue ones, and let me go over that real quick. So with the sleeves, it's pretty simple. You put your sleeves on the waist yarn, then you pick them back up, and then you decrease every 11 rows. I don't remember how much. It's not that much. So I just got to about halfway, and then I started decreasing. No, you decrease every 6 rows. I apologize. You repeat 11 times or something like that. So I was decreasing every 6 rows, and then when I got about halfway down, I started decreasing every 5 rows. And I almost felt like it was too short when I was done. So that's how I did it. If you just adjust the amount of repeats, you can make the sleeve shorter without messing with the line of the sleeves. They're shorter. So I think that's everything that I have to share on the making of it. On the neck, this is like a pretty simple thing, but I had a really hard time. I had to use knitting needles that were 2 sizes bigger to bind off the neck. I kept trying to do it with the needles that I knit it with, the size 7, and it was just way too tight and puckered. So I did that, but you know your own way. Like I said, I'm a really stressful knitter. I knit everything super tight. So if you weren't as stressed out when you knit, then you won't have to do that. And the last thing I wanted to just mention is you've been seeing me use my Goodnotes. I use the Goodnotes app a lot for patterns. I actually do my daily planning. I have a passion planner, and I have an Apple Pencil, and I love this. In the past, I was a magnet board person. And I also, like here, you are doing some increases. So there's 8 stitches increased, then 4. So you do a round where you increase by 8, a round straight, a round where you increase by 4, a round straight, and then you repeat that X number of times. When I was knitting the orange bodice, I really had a hard time where I'd lose my count, and there's so many stitches that it was frustrating because I didn't know where I'd gone off. So I went to doing I wrote out the pattern. So this is probably, I have other pages where you can see it even better. Yeah. So I write out the pattern, and then I put the stitch total here, and I do the math correctly to make sure I'm going up by, you can see there's 8 increase there, 10 increase there, 8 increase, 10 increase. So I'm sure I have every section. These lines are stitch markers. So I'm sure that I have every section right, so I can keep the count section by section, not just round by round. The reason I did this is actually kind of funny. I knit the orange bodice, and then I frogged the whole thing, and then I got my new yarn, which was this brown yarn, and I knit the whole bodice, and I admit, as I was knitting it, it crossed my mind that something seemed off. And if you've been knitting for any amount of time, you know there's this weird intuitive thing that happens with you when you knit, where you don't actually notice things, but you know when things are off. I knew when things were off, and yet I did not stop to troubleshoot. And what I ended up doing is so stupid, but you do, let me see the body pattern. Okay, and the triangle, right. So all the increases are done on the sweater, I believe. I was just reading that really fast. Like once you get here, no more increases. And when you're knitting this, on the back, there's this cool detail, and on the front, there's the cool detail, which is a half brioche stitch. So a lot of the increases are done on these arm seams, right? A lot. And then there's a slight amount of increase that's done on the neckline to get the V-neck, right? Well, I did all of my increases. Um, I can't remember exactly what I did, but I did a whole bodice where I did the increases in the wrong spot. Like I did one of my charts that I just showed you, and I wrote it wrong, where I had the increases in the wrong place. So I got to, you're done knitting the sweater because you knit that triangle detail, and eventually, sorry, my cat just walked in front of me so I couldn't see. So you do your increases in the triangle, and eventually it's all half brioche stitch all the way around. There's no like straight stockinette stitch that you're knitting. And then you're done. And you've got a perfect triangle in the front and a perfect triangle in the back. Well, mine I can't even like, okay, so it was something like this. Like here's the front, here's the back. So I had one that was all knit perfect and then one that was like this because I had done my increases wrong. So on one side, my back, I don't remember if it was the front or back, it was like way big. And then the front was like way small. And I didn't stop to say, why is this so weird? It was so stupid because I had already knit the orange large version that was way too big. And then I knit a whole other version that I knew was wrong. And then I got to the end and I'm like, okay, this isn't even right. So I had to frog the whole bodice twice, which is why I love this sweater. And I'm willing to knit more because I want more in my wardrobe. But yeah, I needed to pay attention. And I totally copied down these instructions, wrote them all out, and then just followed them without thinking. So don't be like me. Think. Um, but I do love the using Goodnotes. I oftentimes, this is like old magnet board stuff. It's just so much easier to do when you can have any color highlighter you want, for instance. It's like I ended up, because I knit this so many times, I only use 2 different color stitch markers, but I started out color coding. So you can see there's like all these colors, and then when that corresponds to these colors. That being said, I ended up, after I made that mistake with the increases, I only used silver and black markers, and I don't remember exactly which way I did it, but I think I used black on the centers because those don't get increases ever. So it was a reminder that if there was a black stitch marker, no increasing. And then on the sides, I used a different color, I think silver, because those are the places where I was going to be putting increases in. So learn from my mistakes. I think that's it for today. I hope this was interesting or informative for you. I think this is a great sweater, definitely worth putting the time in if you like this style. And then I'm just going to show you my next project because I think this is awesome. And if you like the Ursina sweater, then this is I am making this sweater scarf, which has sleeves that are about this long and then sweater. And this is 100% because of Iwala, which is one of my favorite designers. I wanted to look at your archive. Oh, you guys don't want to listen to me sing. Guys, look at this. Have you ever seen anything more beautiful than this? This is in their fall winter line. I was in love. This looks like it's knit with a heavier gauge yarn. But I saw this and I was like, must knit it. And I found this pattern on Ravelry, the Wrap Me Up sweater scarf. And if you Google sweater scarf, or look for the tag on Instagram, there's lots of examples. But there's lots of different ways to wear it. This is a little bit finer, lighter weight, which actually might be more wearable for me. But I think that this is going to be super wearable with my wardrobe. I'm really excited for this. So that's that. And I'm also going to include notes. I'll be doing this. So if you're listening to this later, you'll miss out on this. But when it comes to Miss Orange Sweater, I still have all the yarn. And so if you have the coloring that works with burnt orange, I'll be giving this away. I probably will just include it with notes in Instagram. I'm Patty Brower on Instagram. So it is October something. I don't know what the date is. It's October 22nd maybe. So I'll do this probably as a Halloween giveaway, so by the end of October. So if you see this before October 31st, 2022, go find me on Instagram, Patty Brower, and if you like this yarn, you can, and I don't know how I'll do this exactly, but go look over there. And I think that's it. You guys have a good day. If you have any advice on the Ursina or thoughts, please let me know, because like I said, I'm not a super accomplished knitter. I'm more of a dilettante who just wants the stuff that I can knit, so I hack my way through it. And if you have any suggestions on styles that are similar to the Ursina, or that kind of work with the crop dresses, I'd love to know those too. Have a great day, and I will see you soon.